Have you ever wondered what growing old truly feels like when you're still strong, independent, but alone? You might think the answer lies in nursing homes or expensive caregivers. But what if the best solution was something far simpler and much more human? Let me take you on a journey. The story of Grandpa Sue, a 75-year-old who redefined aging not with money, but with connection. When Grandpa Sue turned 75, he found himself at a crossroads. His beloved wife had passed 5 years earlier, and while he was still capable of managing on his own, life was quieter and lonelier. His children, out of love and concern, hired a live-in caregiver for him. On paper, it sounded perfect. 5,500 yuan a month, meals included, someone to keep him company. But the reality? The caregiver spent more time on her phone than in the kitchen. The food was tasteless, and worst of all, Sue felt more like the caretaker than the one being cared for. After just 2 months, he let her go. Next came the nursing home. His children insisted it was safe, regulated, and staffed with professionals. But what they didn't understand was that for Sue, independence wasn't negotiable. At the home, every exit and entrance had to be registered. The atmosphere, oppressive, silent, heavy with the reminder of life's end. Within a month, Sue had packed his bags. "I'm not ready to surrender my freedom," he thought. Not yet. Trying to find balance, his children proposed another idea, rotating between their homes. He appreciated the gesture, truly, but each visit felt like walking on eggshells. At his son's home, utensils were marked specifically for him. His daughter-in-law wouldn't let him use the washing machine. She said the old person smell bothered her, so he'd lug his laundry to the laundromat alone. In these homes, surrounded by family, he felt like a guest. Not once did it feel like home. And so, Sue returned to his small apartment. This time, he didn't dwell on what was missing. Instead, he focused on what he could build. He learned to stir fry, to steam buns. Every morning, he joined a Tai Chi group in the park, 10 elderly neighbors who, like him, didn't want to grow old in silence. Together, they created something extraordinary. They formed a WeChat group, simple but powerful. Every morning, they checked in. If someone didn't respond, another would stop by to check. They lived nearby. They shared the same fears, the same needs. If one needed help to visit the doctor, someone would volunteer and be compensated fairly at 8 yuan an hour. Sometimes Sue gave care. Other times, he received it. No one felt guilty. No one felt alone. Their children felt relief. And they, for the first time in a long time, felt purpose. This self-made care network grew. From a handful of people, it became a movement. They shared soup when someone got sick, went for walks together, laughed, talked, lived. It cost less than a nursing home, gave more than a caregiver could, and brought back what most elderly people silently crave, dignity. As Grandpa Sue says, as long as I can care for myself, there's no place like home. So what do you think? Could this be the future of aging? Not isolation, not institutions, but community, fairness, and mutual care. If this story inspired you, comment 9 below. If not, comment 0. We truly want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever seen a single act of self-reliance grow into a movement? That's exactly what happened with Grandpa Sue and his small Tai Chi group in the park. At first, it was just about staying active, staying connected, a few neighbors watching out for one another. But one morning, a local social worker named Lynn passed by. She saw them gathered, chatting, stretching, laughing, and something about it stopped her in her tracks. She asked what brought them together, and when they told her, she didn't just nod and smile. She offered to help. With Lynn's help, they put up a few simple flyers, one at the clinic, another at the market, and just like that, their small group of 10 grew to 20, then 30. Each new member had a similar story, widowed, retired, or living alone, often with kids far away, if they had any at all. But now they had each other. As the group grew, so did the need for structure. They set up a shared calendar to track who needed help and when. They started weekend potlucks where no one ate alone. They introduced a rotating wellness buddy who checked in more closely with a few members every week. And when one member suggested starting a small emergency fund, the others pitched in. Not much, just what they could, but enough to make a difference, enough to buy medicine, cover a cab ride to the hospital, or just offer peace of mind. And here's the part you might not expect. They embraced technology. Every morning, they checked in on WeChat with a simple voice message. Good morning, I'm okay. If someone didn't reply, someone nearby would stop in. They began using apps, step counters, reminder tools, and even hosted virtual Tai Chi for members stuck at home. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. Then something beautiful happened. Younger people started noticing. Children, grandchildren, even complete strangers. They saw their elders not as burdens, but as role models, resilient, resourceful, and full of life. A nearby high school even launched a weekend program, pairing students with elderly group members. The kids helped with tech. The seniors shared stories and life lessons. It wasn't charity. It was connection. From one man's choice to stay independent, a quiet revolution was born. No government program, no outside funding, just people helping people. And so I ask you, what if every neighborhood had a group like this? What if aging didn't mean isolation, but community? What if growing old meant growing closer? If this idea resonates with you, comment together. If you'd like to bring this idea to your neighborhood, comment, start. Let's build something together. I'm Aunt Lou. I'm 67 years old. After a long journey of loss, disappointment, and searching, I finally found the kind of elderly care that suits me best. When I was younger, I worked as a supervisor at a state-owned garment factory. Now, my pension is a little over 4,200 yuan a month. Not bad, considering I've worked my whole life. I have a son and a daughter, both doing well. My son settled in Qingtu, owns a house and a car, and lives a stable life with his wife and kids. My daughter lives farther away and just had her second child a couple of years ago. At first, I had no plans to burden my children. I wanted to enjoy retirement at home with my husband, but life had other plans. Last year, at 68, my husband suddenly passed away from a severe stroke. Just like that, I was alone. The silence in our home was deafening. Every corner whispered his memory. I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned all night. That grief, it doesn't knock. It breaks in. My children tried to comfort me. My daughter called often, inviting me to stay. My son, too. So eventually, I decided to stay with my son's family. But less than 2 weeks in, I realized it wasn't what I imagined. Their life was busy. 2 kids, noise, stress. I had once helped raise my grandson until he was 2, but when my own mother got ill, I had to leave. My daughter-in-law had to quit her job. When their second child was born, she hoped I'd help, but my husband was already unwell by then. Maybe she never forgave me for saying no. She never said it outright, but her actions spoke volumes. Since arriving, I became the cook, the cleaner. Once, my granddaughter asked why I cooked like that. My daughter-in-law said nothing, just grabbed the kids and slammed the door. Every day felt like walking on glass. No smile, no gratitude, just tension and cold glances. And worst of all, she constantly argued with my son. The whole house felt like a battlefield. I quietly packed my things and asked my son to take me home. That's when it hit me. I can't rely on them for elderly care. Not my daughter-in-law. Not even my son. Not like this. My daughter called, again, offering me a room in her home, but I declined. Her place is small, and her children have always been raised by her mother-in-law, not me. I'd be a stranger in my own family. They say a parent's house is always a home to the children, but the children's house is never truly a home to the parent. I learned that the hard way. Then one day, a neighbor said, "Why not find a companion?" At first, I laughed it off, but when a friend introduced me to Uncle Lou, a widower with a pension slightly higher than mine, I thought, why not? He was kind, easy to talk to, and lived in the next neighborhood. We took walks, shopped at the market, cooked together. 2 months in, he invited me to move in. At first, it sounded practical. Rent out my apartment, earn a little extra. He said he'd cover expenses, and we'd share everything. But when we started living together, reality came crashing in. He was messy, lazy, always playing cards, never lifting a finger in the kitchen. One day, at the mall, I spotted a simple gold ring, less than 500 yen. I asked if he'd buy it, just as a symbol, nothing fancy, but he scoffed. "We're too old for that. Let's spend that money on ribs instead." So, I bought the ring myself, with my card, for me. He had said he'd hand over his pension, but by the second month, he simply said, "I've paid for groceries. I need to save the rest." Fine. But then the complaints started, my cooking, my cleaning, everything. He expected a housekeeper, not a partner. That same night, I packed my bags and left. Thankfully, I never rented out my apartment. And that day, I told myself, I'm not anyone's unpaid caregiver. I've worked my whole life. I deserve peace. But even with my own space, the nights were lonely, the silence too loud. Then, at a wedding, a friend told me about hotel-style apartments for seniors. She had lived in one for 6 months and loved it. I visited her place, warm decor, private studio, delicious meals, daily cleaning, and freedom. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful. That night, I made up my mind. I listed my apartment for rent, 1,000 yen a month. Added to my 4,200 yen pension, it was enough to move in. My kids were skeptical. "Isn't that too expensive, Mom?" I told them, "If you think it is, help me. 1,000 yen from each of you. That's all." I wasn't begging. I just wanted to live with dignity. After years of caring for others, I want to care for myself now. And if money can buy me peace, comfort, and autonomy, it's worth it. This senior hotel costs just under 3,800 yen per month. Some say that's a lot, but for me, it's freedom. It's warm meals, friendly staff, clean rooms, and quiet, peaceful nights. Of course, it's not for everyone. They only accept seniors under 75 who can still care for themselves. What happens after that? I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. For now, I'm healthy. I'm independent, and I'm happy. Because after everything, I've finally found the 4 keys to growing old well. Don't rely solely on your children. Don't rush into a new relationship. Don't undervalue your time and freedom. And most importantly, don't forget to live for yourself. Living with your children in old age. It can be comforting, supportive, even joyful. But let's be honest, it isn't always easy. I'm here to talk about the keys to harmonious coexistence between elderly parents and their adult children. Because while this arrangement can be deeply rewarding, it also comes with its share of challenges, generational gaps, differing routines, and unspoken expectations. So, how do we make it work? How do we live together, not just under one roof, but with mutual respect, peace, and love? Let's explore a few principles that can make all the difference. 1. Open and honest communication. First and foremost, talk. Before moving in together, sit down and have a real conversation. Talk about chores, about money, about daily routines and personal space. Be clear, but be kind. When both generations express their needs and listen without judgment, misunderstandings fade and respect grows. 2. Respect boundaries. Even in the same house, everyone needs space. Elderly parents, remember, your children have their own families, careers, and lives. Avoid stepping in uninvited. Don't offer advice unless it's asked for. And try not to comment on how they raise their kids or manage their money. Let them live, and they'll be more willing to love openly in return. 3. Maintain your independence. It's easy to become dependent when you're aging, especially after losing a spouse or battling illness. But maintaining your independence helps protect your dignity and your relationship. Keep up your hobbies. Visit your old friends. Join a local group. Your life doesn't end when you move in. It just shifts. And when you remain engaged and fulfilled, your children feel less burdened and more connected. 4. Be flexible and adaptable. Life changes. Children face job pressures, financial challenges, and parenting stress. And as parents, your health and emotions may shift too. Adapt. Don't take things personally. If your child seems distant or overwhelmed, offer patience instead of criticism. Remember, empathy is a two-way street. 5. Understand emotions, yours and theirs. Aging can bring vulnerability, feelings of loss, fear. You might not even notice it, but it shows in frustration, in sadness, or withdrawal. Talk about those feelings constructively. And children, understand that aging is hard. Be patient. Be present. Even a small act of kindness can mean the world. 6. Practice gratitude. And finally, be thankful. Elderly parents, thank your children for their care, their home, their time. Children, acknowledge the wisdom and love your parents bring into your life. Gratitude strengthens bonds. It makes cohabitation not just possible, but beautiful. As we age, the best care doesn't always come from fancy facilities or expensive services. It comes from connection, from understanding, from a shared commitment to love and respect. So let's take these lessons to heart. Let's build homes where generations live not in silence, but in harmony. If this message touched you, like the video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more stories and insights on aging with grace, dignity, and love. Together, we can create a more compassionate world for all of us.